Good morning, everyone. I hope we're rolling. Today we're going to read the remainder of the chapter called A Midsummer Night's Curse. And if you didn't catch yesterday's, uh, I really encourage you to scroll down on my page and listen to yesterday's too. That way, what I'm going to read today will make a lot more sense to you and you'll enjoy it more. So we're on the chapter where we're using actually the play or elements of the play of Midsummer Night's Dream in a magical ritual to lift a curse of misunderstanding. So if you're ready, so am I. Shakespeare was well aware of the mythological and magical properties of plants and herbs. He mentions by name at least 80 varieties in his plays and poems, 26 in Midsummer Night's Dream alone. I wanted to first confirm exactly what flower was used by Oberon to bewitch the eyes of Titania and all the others, and then what flower was used to lift the curse and allow everyone to see things clearly again. In Act 2, Scene 1, Oberon himself tells us about the first flower, when he informs his servant Puck precisely what it is and why it is magical and where he can find it. Oberon. My gentle Puck, come hither. Thou rememberest since once I sat upon a promontory, and heard a mermaid on a dolphin's back uttering such dulcet and harmonious breath that the rude sea grew civil at her song. And certain stars shot madly from their spheres to hear the sea maid's music. Puck, I remember. Oberon. That very time I saw, but thou couldst not, flying between the cold moon and the earth, Cupid, all armed. A certain aim he took at a fair vestal throned by the west, and loosed his love shaft smartly from his bow, that it should pierce 100,000 hearts. But I might see young Cupid's fiery shaft quenched in the chaste beams of the watery moon. And the imperial votress passed on, in maiden meditation fancy-free. Yet marked I where the bolt of Cupid fell. It fell upon a little western flower, before milk white, now purple with love's wound. And maidens call it love in idleness. Fetch me that flower, the herb which I shewed thee once. The juice of it on sleeping eyelids laid will make man or woman madly dote upon the next living creature that it sees. Fetch me this herb, and be thou here again ere Leviathan can swim a league. In Shakespeare's day, love and idleness was the name of a violet and white European wildflower called heart's ease, Viola tricolor, which was the ancient ancestor of the pansy. His description of the mythical genesis of the flower, that being created when Cupid's arrow missed the heart of a, quote, fair vestal throned by the west, is a not so subtle reference to Queen Elizabeth I, whose virgin heart was officially never pierced by Cupid's arrow. The purple of love's wound of the once pure white flower was a poignant reference to the fact that Elizabeth had shunned the personal pleasures of marriage and the garment that would have been her white bridal dress was transformed by greater duty to the royal purple of the monarchy. She quite literally became the bride of England. When you think about it, there was big magic in that flower. The sexual power of Cupid's arrow shot as it should pierce 100,000 hearts. Instead of casting a powerful spell of passion on the great queen, injected all its love magic into that tiny quivering flower. I love this stuff. The identity of the other flower, the one Oberon used to free Titania, and the others from the spell of misunderstanding, can be found in Act 4, Scene 1. Oberon. But first I will release the fairy queen. Be as thou wast wont to be, touching her eyes with the herb. See as thou wast wont to see. Dian's bud, or Cupid's flower, has such force and blessed power. Now, my Titania, wake you, my sweet queen. Dian's bud, Artemisia absinthium, is the name for the chaste goddess of the hunt, another virgin. It is the archaic name for absinthe or wormwood, associated with sorcery from prehistoric times. Its feathery, greenish-gray leaves are poisonous in concentrated doses and produce a narcotic effect in smaller doses. It was starting to sound like serious pharmacology. The basic format of our ritual was to be very simple. After due preparation, we would have S.A. smear certain parts of the curse parchment with the juice of a love and idleness plant. These parts would include F.F.'s signature, the image of the mischievous Puck, and particular words and phrases that most demonstrated F.F.'s temporary inability to see things accurately. Then once the curse itself was anointed and fully alive with the delusional spirit of misunderstanding, S.A. would neutralize the spirit by liberally smearing the juice of Dian's bud upon those same areas of the parchment. All this, of course, would be accompanied by appropriate incantations gleaned from the works of Shakespeare. The whole operation promised not to be only magically viable, but also a lot of fun. We chose for our magical temple one of the most beautiful places on earth, the Huntington Library and Botanical Gardens in San Marino, California. Nestled within its 140 acres is a charming Shakespeare garden, containing many of the herbs and plants mentioned in Shakespeare's works, all with little plaques displaying the names of the plays in which they made their appearance. It would be no trouble at all to find our love and idleness and Dian's bud. But how would we pluck them up without drawing the attentions of the groundskeeper? Aye, there's the rub. It was a cool Sunday afternoon when Constance and I, S.A., and a handful of interested lodge members carpooled up to the Huntington. As expected, the place was crowded. The Shakespearean garden, however, was nearly deserted, and it took us no time at all to locate and feloniously pluck up a pocketful of each of our flowers. Before leaving the Shakespeare garden for more private environs on the ground, we placed a small offering of some of our ill-gotten herbs at the stone bust of Shakespeare to invoke the presence and blessing of the immortal bard. After all, He would play the deity in this magical drama. The spirit Ariel's greeting to the great magician Prospero from The Tempest served as our invocation. All hail, grave master, I come to answer thy best pleasure, be it to fly, to swim, to dive into the fire, to ride on the curled clouds. Then we strolled down to the lily ponds and found ourselves a quiet spot in the shade of a giant magnolia tree to set to work. We all sat on the ground and surrounded S.A. to shield his magical operation from prying eyes. The ceremony was short and very simple. S.A. crushed the love and idleness between his hands and rolled them back and forth until the plant was pulpy and wet. He then smeared the area of the curse I described above. He then held the anointed paper in his hand while he read Oberon's original curse. The words didn't exactly fit our situation, but we thought they'd do. What thou seest when thou dost awake, do it for thy true love's take. Love and languish for his sake, be it ounce or cat or bear or pard or boar with bristled hair. In thine eyes that shall appear when thou wakest, it is thy dear. Wake when some vile thing is near. Then, doing the same with Dian's bud, he smeared the paper with the antidote, saying, then crush this herb into FF's eye, whose liquor hath this virtuous property, to take from thence all air with his might, and make his eyeballs roll with wonted sight. When they next wake, all this delusion shall seem a dream, a fruitless vision. That's such good shit. That was it. I banished the temple with Puck's closing line. If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here while these visions did appear, and this weak and idle theme no more yielding but a dream. Gentles, do not reprehend, if you pardon, we will mend. And I, as an honest Puck, if we have unearned luck now to escape the serpent's tongue, we will make amends ere long, else the Puck a liar call. So good night unto you all. Give me your hands if we be friends, and Robin shall make amends. We spent the rest of the afternoon enjoying the gardens and art museum. S.A. said he felt much better. We debated whether or not to burn the curse letter. S.A. would have none of it, insisting that he'd like to keep it as a memento. We would later discover that over the years, FF made something of a habit of cursing people whom he thought had wronged him, and that most of them took it in good humor. Some were even amused and flattered at the distinction. Did our Midsummer Night's Dream ritual really work? I guess it's a matter of opinion. S.A. certainly stopped worrying about the curse, and in the years to follow went on to become a successful illustrator and author. His untimely death, 26 years later, was not likely the result of any curses other than those his life choices sadly loosed upon himself. And FF? We would learn from a third party nearly 10 years later that his friend in San Diego, the one with whom he had stayed in the days just prior to his visit with us, had evidently eventually confessed to the pill substitution, stating it was a foolish act of misguided concern for FF's health and well-being. And so ends the story of A Midsummer Night's Curse. I hope it has served as an illustration of how magic ceremonies can be drawn from virtually any source that inspires the magician, and that isn't always necessary to lift a magical ritual directly from the works of John Dee or the Golden Dawn or Aleister Crowley or Gerald Gardner in order to assure that Jack shall have Jill, naught shall go ill, the man shall have his mare again, and all shall be well. And that's the end of that chapter. Tomorrow we'll be on chapter 8, Astral Projection, Traveling in the Spirit Visions, or Real Magicians Eat Quiche. Thank you very much for being with me this morning, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under